All right, the Reds, it's the preview show previewing Liverpool's trip to West Ham on Monday, 8 o'clock kickoff. Liverpool playing after Manchester City. Again, Manchester City playing Arsenal on Sunday at 4:30. Phil Blundell and Rob Gutmann with me to preview this one. Start off with sort of how it's perceived by the bookies, just as a little marker really in the sand to see where we are, if you like. They make West Ham 8-1. To win this game, the draw 9-2, and Liverpool significantly odds on to win the match. I want to start with this question, really, lads. Do you think we've just been talking there, and we talked on the second look about the idea that the Anfield crowd got a bit edgy the other night against Leicester, and we've seen Van Dijk actually reference it and say we know that, we feel it, we want to win ourselves, we don't really need it. With that in mind, and with the obviously, we don't know how City are going to get on when we're doing this show, but is there an argument someone will say it's nicer this one that we're away, just because for the circumstance? Clock a win up away from home, you're not going to have that edginess, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a different thing with away games where you sort of, there's the day out element, and you feel less pressure because you're going into someone else's house basically and trying to win. And the edgy thing I always think is interesting because it's basically like standing over someone and shouting at them to tell them to do their job better. Like if someone stands over my shoulder and tells me to do my job better, it's not going to help me do my job better.
No.
It's going to annoy me, as opposed to actually. So it's completely and utterly counterproductive.
But then you should go, don't watch me do my job.
Well, exactly.
That's fair. Everyone turns the back.
We're expected to go up and watch. We can't help but be edgy. I'm sorry. You're not. If you
I don't disagree with
what
that.
Kind of a supporter turns out? I'm absolutely fine with this. We may win the league. We may not win the league. Fuck. There's just no way of being.
It's catch-22 because it's perfectly understandable, but it also doesn't help.
This is why we want 7-point lead, so we can be less edgy with you boys.
Well, we haven't. We've got a 5.1.
Which is fine.
So,
truth be told.
West Ham, how are you feeling about it, Rob?
Edgy. I'll tell you after the City game, really. I don't know. I've studied the form. West Ham, they're a strange side this season. They go from terrible to being on the cusp of a serious renaissance and back to terrible again. I don't want to tempt fate, but I will. I think we might be coming at them at just the right time. Their form's dipped off. They've got a few injuries.
A lot of injuries, actually.
I think the likes of Nasri's likely to be out. Who else out at the front? Philip Anderson.
They're missing Balbuena at the back. Arnautovic went off.
Arnautovic is good.
There was a rumour that he's all right.
Well, heavily bruised. I think he's all right in the sense that it's not a long-termer, which they feared. I'm guessing he's still going to be quite 50-50 for us.
This morning seems to be saying he'd probably be all right. We're obviously recording this quite far in advance of the match.
Even still, it's better that he's got a knock than he hasn't got a knock, even if he's fit.
I mean, we've had 2 good games at their ground, haven't we? So I hope the muscle memory counts for something. There's 2 lots of 4 in the last 2 visits.
Well, you mentioned their form there, and their last 6 backs up what you say, really. Lost the last 3. Lost 3-0 to Wolves in the Premier League. Lost 4-2 to Wimbledon in the FA Cup. Lost 2-0 to Bournemouth. Before that, they beat Arsenal 1-0. They beat Birmingham 2-0 in the FA Cup, and they drew 2-2 with Brighton. But is there a thing here now about Liverpool's form as well? Because if you look at, you probably can't see the screen obviously, but West Ham's last 6, as I say, reads lost 3, won 2, drawn 1. Liverpool's last 6 reads drawn 1, won 3, lost 2. Are you worried at all about Liverpool since the turn of the year? Because I'm seeing people starting to say that now, like there's not really a thoroughly convincing performance since the turn of the year.
You kind of got to take that Wolves one out of it because it's a second
because of the team.
Yeah,
9 changes.
But I wrote about this in the preview I wrote for the Leicester game for our website. You're gonna on the march to any kind of competition, you're gonna have within the context of any game, you're gonna have lulls. Yeah. We've been through a bad phase this season where we drew with some of the top sides. We didn't play well. There was talk about the front 3 not clicking as they had before, but quietly we won football matches. I think we are in a dip at the moment. We weren't at our best in beating Brighton. We weren't at our best in beating Crystal Palace. What else have we got? Okay, and we've drawn with Leicester. We are in a dip, but we're going to come out of it. I think the question is how quickly and how scathed or unscathed will we be by the time we do. I think West Ham's probably the right game. I think they are in a much more serious malign. They're not near as good as us. Touch wood, we haven't got serious injuries. I think it's the right game for us to sort of get our wagon back on track.
Well, we mentioned there as well, sort of, Liverpool done pretty well against them in recent times. The last 5 games, go back to December 2016, there was a 2-2 draw at Anfield. That was followed up by a 4-0 win at the London Stadium, a 4-1 win at the London Stadium, a 4-1 win at Anfield, and then another 4-0 win at Anfield. So there's been...
So we're going to score 4 then?
There's been a lot of 4 goals. And in general, I mean, you know, we went down there, we're gonna cut to that in a minute, but when we went down there and we spoke to West Ham fans, they were like, don't really like playing Liverpool, don't really get a lot of change out of Liverpool in general, usually. Does that type of thing matter? You know, Rob said before, muscle memory. Does it matter? Like, do these things matter? Your record against the club, your record at a ground?
I think it depends on if the players there have got that memory, because sometimes you play a team 2 years after you've played the team and the players are completely different. Whereas some of them might look at Mohamed Salah and go, ran us ragged last year. Like, I think, was it Aaron Cresswell who tried to chase it? I think the first one last season when we cleared the header and Mane and Salah went on the counter-attack. And I think it was Aaron Cresswell chasing them, and I think he had a start on both of them, and he's like, what am I supposed to do here?
I'm not catching
so
this,
if he finds himself in that situation, he's looking at them and he's panicking. And I think he's one of the ones that's injured, actually, so it's going to be... It'll be Masuaku at left back, but he's not great defensively himself. So it will matter, yeah.
Are you going to this one, Rob?
I know, so I think it's only the second away I've not been to this season, no, can't. It's a school night for my lads, so we can't go.
Fair enough. You've been down there before, haven't you? It's a bit of a strange ground, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one of the worst away. One of the worst aways I've ever been to. It was like, it's not a football ground. It's crap.
Yeah.
I absolutely, you know, I'd feel for them, but I don't, because Danny has been a terrible lot of lads. But it's a terrible ground. It's not fit for the purpose. It's got these ridiculous moats around the thing. The atmosphere is destroyed.
Filling them in, you know.
Sorry,
filling them in and putting seats in, yeah.
Put water in them. I mean, considering Upton Park use, I used to. Been to so many aways there, the most atmospheric ground.
That was
really
brilliant,
wasn't it? Yeah.
Great, hostile, horrible, all those things. But for a West Ham team, great to play in. Just think it's not conducive to winning your home matches.
It's a pretty good advert for how to not do a ground move, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And clubs should look at how they've done it and go, let's not do what they've done.
Well, I feel like we've led into it really, really well there, because me and Sam did go down to West Ham's ground. We spoke to a West Ham fan. So here's that when we went down to a very windy West Ham.
All right, so here we are at the London Stadium, the home of West Ham United now for 2 years. But is it really home? Does it really feel like home? Is it anything like Upton Park? Well, obviously not. Anyone who went there and has been here since the last 2 times Liverpool have played will tell you that the world's apart. So has it affected our West Ham players? Has it affected how good they are at home? We've come down here to find out. But Liverpool's recent record, twice we played there, twice we scored 4 goals, and in fact, in recent times, full stop, our record against West Ham is very good. And again, you have to wonder, I mean, Liverpool have only lost 4 times to West Ham in the history of the football club at Anfield, whereas against West Ham on their ground, we've won 26, but we've lost 24. But have West Ham lost a little bit of that, haven't moved to what was the Olympic Stadium? We'll find out.
Name's Paul Turner, Vice Chair of the West Ham United Independent Support Association. I've been supporting West Ham for way too long. Only speaking for myself personally, I don't like the stadium. I don't like the stadium for football. To me, it doesn't feel like home. Home is what I knew for so many years, which is now demolished and flats have been built upon over in East Ham in the Upton Park area. So some people say over time it'll feel like it will be something to be proud of at home, but there seems at the moment to be so many issues still unresolved with the stadium, stewarding, getting to and from, where maybe over time those will settle, those will dissipate. People say that good results on the field as well will help. Might be true, but when have West Ham ever had good results? So to me personally, it doesn't feel like home as it is at the moment. It feels like somewhere I have to go out of a sense of routine of something that I've been doing for so many years. And I've seen on some away forums, and some people have spoken about how it feels like they're going to like a Wembley, and that in a way is kind of true. Wembley is special for the one-off game, the big occasion. Nowadays the FA Cup semi-final, but the final is the one-off. You don't have to go there every single time. here it does feel like that kind of thing 19 times where you're actually going, or 23 if you ever get relegated again, which probably will happen at some point, where you feel like you're actually going to the stadium that's out of the way and is not the norm, because who else in Europe, as it stands, moves from a football stadium into a rented athletics track? For me personally, I want West Ham to win every single game they play. I want them to win the league, because if you don't, then what's the point of even being in any competition? What I think is going to happen to West Ham is the board will probably want to think stay up at all costs, because then you get the Premier League money again, and that's it. Just perpetual, just stay in the league, and that's it. If you really want to seriously think about pushing on and challenging further, you probably will need to invest a serious amount of money. Me personally, I want to see West Ham win the league. If I had to put a actual finish on West Ham, it would be anywhere between 10th and 12th if it had to be realistic, but what football fan is. High for me was when we beat Liverpool 3-1 at the Bowling Ground. Carlton Cole scored. We went 2-0 up. It was about the 80th minute. Liverpool pulled one back. Carlton Cole scored in about the 90th minute. The scenes of celebration in the Bodmore Lower, where I had my season ticket at the time, just absolutely unbelievable. The kind of celebration where people falling over each other, rolling down aisles, that kind of thing, where just absolute sea of limbs. But we sell Rio Ferdinand for 15 million to Leeds, and we buy Titi Kamara and Rigobert Song off Hughes. So you saw us coming a mile off. If I had to pick a favourite, Stuart Downing, when he played for us, actually played all right. He wanted to go back to Middlesbrough. He probably wasn't happy with the way things have been run at West Ham, but he actually played quite well for us on the wing, and he did put in a fair few good balls, a couple of assists while he played for us. So if I had to pick someone in my time of supporting West Ham, that's probably the best of the bunch, if I had to pick someone. At West Ham in general, if you have a striker who's either ill and coming back to fitness, in ropey form, is just can't hit the back of the net, absolutely rubbish, play West Ham. We will rehabilitate your strikers for you. My personal recommendation would be over the Hackney weekend of the stadium. There's a few bars and cafes and spaces that will actually want football fans in. More Stratford High Street is more home fan only kind of places, and they clearly advertise that out the front. If you want to go somewhere where you know you're not going to get either home only or it's going to be dominated by away fans, it is actually Stratford as the shopping centre. There's several food places, several places to catch a drink. My personal recommendation would be the Hackney Wick area.
Okay, so that was the trip to West Ham. Some stats, some facts, some figures for you. I've got in front of me the home and away table of the Premier League, which I quite enjoy having a bit of a look at. And West Ham, in terms of a home team, are currently 11th best home record in the league. So they played 12, they've won 5, drawn 2, lost 5. They scored 17 goals at home and conceded 18. Liverpool, meanwhile, on the road, have won 9 of the 12 they played, drawn 2, lost 1, scored 23 and conceded only 7. Also as well, on...
Can make us the best away side in the division?
No, Tottenham.
Yeah, Tottenham are the best. But they played a game more. But yeah, 33 points on the road to Liverpool's 29. But yeah, another thing here which is quite interesting, I thought, is a collation of sort of how many shots per game teams give up. And Liverpool's, as you would expect, reads pretty well. In the Premier League this season, there's only about 8, there's literally 8 shots, an average of 8 shots against Liverpool per game. West Ham's is 13.2. So it kind of feels like we're going to get a chance or two here, no matter what happens.
Yeah, they're quite generous at allowing chances, and like Lucas Fabianski makes a hell of a lot of saves, which he has to because of the amount of times that, okay, they're not all on target, are they, those 13? But you're saying that's probably 5 shots on target a game, which is, if you give this Liverpool team 5 chances in a game, we'll take advantage of 2 or 3 of them probably.
I'd rather play a team that's a bit more expansive than a Leicester, again, even if you said there was a parity between them, which probably isn't, but if they're close, we don't want to play against bus parkers who want to just nullify our
There's
threat.
some teams that you look at playing and go, I'm all right with that, and there's other teams you look at and go, I could see that being a problem, like Watford, Brighton, Crystal Palace, Leicester. You look at and go, I could see that being hard.
Even Newcastle on their own patch.
And Newcastle as well is another fair one as well, but there's teams like, similar level teams like Bournemouth, for example. If I look at Bournemouth, I know we've got them next weekend, and I think they're set up perfectly for us. And I think West Ham might not be particularly dissimilar, because they've got a manager he's a really very good manager, and he's all about sort of expansive football and letting the ball do the talking, and we'll get the ball to Anderson and Arnautovic and we'll have a bit of a go. You're not going to get, like, I think Anderson and Arnautovic are brilliant players. They're 2 of the best outside the top 6 for me on any day, but they're not going to go backwards like you saw Mark Albrighton last night, for example. You see Damari Gray. You're not going to see.
They're not going to
like
graft. So do you agree with that, Robin? That it's the right game at the right time for Liverpool, this one?
Yeah, I do. I mean, as to West Ham's form, we're getting them in one of their many dips. I agree with Phil. They're an ambitious team. They'll be encouraged at home. I think despite the shitness of that stadium, they'll always be expansive-ish at home. They'll never want to play as the away side on their own patch. I think it'll suit us. Having said that, we're going to need to get our mojo back quickly, because they do carry a threat. And if they carry a threat, it means they can score a goal against us, and then it'll be a different proposition. So I'm not as... If you'd asked me this a week ago, I'd have said, yeah, it's not exactly a banker. You can never really say that in the Premier League in an away game, but I'm very, very confident. I think we should do it, but I'll be nervous until we actually do.
In terms of mojo and getting mojo back and playing well and all the rest of it, the team that we see the other night against Leicester is a bit of a strange one, Henderson at right back and all that sort of stuff, and people wondering why certain players weren't involved, and it appears certain players were ill and carrying knocks and all the stuff that, when you're in the ground you don't know about, you only found out about later. With this being a Monday night game, it feels like it's a little extra period for things to clear up and for people to have a chance to play. We're merely speculating at this point because it's early days when we're recording this in terms of the team news, but we'd expect maybe Trent to be close, if not involved. Milner obviously now has served a suspension. We've seen Fabinho come on the other night and do pretty well, I thought, when he came on. So what are you both expecting in terms of how Liverpool might line up for this one?
I think what's interesting is a lot of the half-fit lads who are just about in the squad for Leicester will now have got to the stage where they can properly bang on the door and say, I'm really fully ready. I'm talking about Matip, Lovren, you mentioned Fabinho, Wijnaldum, players who only just made the cut. Lallana's back in the, he's back and fit and playing. I don't think, my guess is that Trent won't make this one, but we will see Milner back at right back. Van Dijk should be over his illness, hopefully. Who he partners with Van Dijk will be interesting, because Lovren will be that bit fitter. Will he go with Matip again? I'm not sure. I don't think he'll play that 4-2-3-1 he's favoured in some of the aways this season, like Watford and Burnley. I think he'll go more 4-3-3, and I think he'll give Naby Keita another go. I'm expecting Naby Keita with Henderson and Fabinho in some sort of setup there. Wijnaldum may be given another game to freshen up from, and the normal front three. That's my guess anyway.
I think it might be Wijnaldum in with instead of Keita in that instance, and I think it might be.
You don't think that's too conservative against?
No, I don't think it is, because if you look at Fabinho actually drives forward. When Fabinho's been playing with Henderson has actually been on the front foot a lot more than he is without him, when it's just him and Wijnaldum or just him and Milner or whatever. And then Wijnaldum, we signed him from Newcastle when he was a box-to-box midfielder. Yeah. So just because he's adapted his game to fit it the way we're playing, it doesn't mean that he suddenly can't do it a little bit differently again. And I think the 3 of them all being able to get up and down, as opposed to one sitting or 2 sitting and one getting up and down, means it's not as conservative as it sounds on paper.
So what we're saying then, predictions then, boys?
Score?
Yeah.
2-0 to Liverpool.
2-0 to Liverpool. Phil?
I think 2-0 makes a lot of sense, yeah.
Okay. I'll go 2-0 as well then. 3-2-0. Okay, so this preview show will end with Neil Atkinson, with the Tactics Board. He's been speaking to West Ham fans this week. If you want to hear the preview shows and looking into Jurgen Klopp's press conferences ahead of this game, they will be on Tour Player, the subscription service from the Anfield app. Go to theanfieldapp.com/subscribe to get involved with the subscription podcast. They're getting a lot of love lately, so they must be pretty good. So yeah, Neil's been speaking to West Ham fans this week. He's heard a little bit about what they might do. So here he is with the Tactics Board to explain. That has been the preview show. Cheers.
Liverpool go to West Ham United on Monday night. Not quite sure what's going to happen with the centre forward. Arnautovic went off on crutches after the performance in midweek. So there's the idea that he may not be fit to play. Arnautovic obviously has been excellent against Liverpool. We've seen it recently. Although that hasn't helped too much for West Ham United. In the last four games against Liverpool, they've been beaten 16-2 on aggregate, which is quite the sort of clear difference between the two sides. But they're a good team, West Ham, and they've got some good players. They started the month really rather well. They beat Arsenal 1-0 at home and didn't really look under much pressure that day. Arsenal struggled to land much of a glove on them. The flip side, though, is they've gone out to the FA Cup being beaten 4-2. They've just been beaten 3-0 by Wolverhampton Wanderers, although Leicester just gave us a really good game after they got defeated 4-3 by Wolverhampton Wanderers. What I would say is there's odd inconsistencies with them. Balbuena was playing for them and he looked really, really good next to Diop. Ogbonna's come in and there's a question around both Diop's young inconsistency now combined with Ogbonna's general inconsistency. Balbuena was very much running this defence. They played Masuaku or Creswell left-hand side. Masuaku was not really impressed, but Creswell struggled for fitness over the course of the season. Zabaletta's playing right back for them again now. Fredericks is out and Zabaleta, he's not good at turning around anymore. You know, the age is there, the miles are on the clock, although we know he's got the experience, the brain and the quality with his feet to be able to be really rather good. Centre midfield, again, inconsistency. Declan Rice has had a very, very good season, but the thing about young players is they aren't good all the time. He was subbed early at Anfield. Mark Noble's been playing next to him recently, and Noble, the other end of the spectrum in terms of the amount of miles he's got on his clock. Can he do it absolutely every time he takes to the pitch? The answer recently has been no, but you've seen Noble again have good games. It's been Antonio mostly off the right, although Snodgrass has played his part. I suspect it'll be Antonio against Liverpool, given the fact that they'll be worried about Robertson getting up and down, but I could be wrong on that one. Nasri's impressed since he's come in, playing off the front man there, and we've seen Felipe Anderson be very, very good at times. The point is that this is an inconsistent West Ham United side. We can't be quite sure who plays number 9 for them. There's a couple of little selection headaches that the manager's got within all of this, and they're coming off a bad run. But then which West Ham will turn up, we won't know until kick-off. We won't know until we see how they deal with Liverpool's high tempo. So far this season, they've not been very good against high tempo sides, although I'll say again, they did beat Arsenal 1-0 earlier in the season, and not just because Sam's doing the camera for this one. It'll be one of those games on Monday night, really a test of nerve as much of a test of Liverpool's quality. It may well be, it's worth remembering this is the second time we've faced Pellegrini's West Ham, and it's only the first time that we've gone to them at home. But I do think that these players have a collective memory of being beaten by Liverpool. 16 goals shipped in the last 4 games against them will mean something at some point on that pitch. And I think if Liverpool turn up and show their class, they should be able to demonstrate West Ham's inconsistency.